Hello and welcome to our assembly today. It's really good to be with you again. As you can see, we've got the box here. So we're going to be finding out what's in the box. But that happens later because, well, do you remember my friends Bubble and Squeak? Strange little caterpillar-y bookworms. That's what they are, bookworms. Well, Bubble and Squeak are going to join us, and apparently Bubble and Squeak have been to the opticians. It must have been quite a special optician, I think, don't you? But it's always a strange experience. I wonder what they're going to tell me about it when they get here. Let's wait and see, shall we? Oh, I can hear them coming. Here they are. Hello, Bubble. Hello, Squeak. How are you today? You've been to the opticians? And how was that? You had to look at a screen and read all the letters. Oh, and there was a lady who looked really closely into your eyes. And did you have that thing go puff, and there's a puff of air that makes you jump? Oh. Now, why did you have to go to the opticians? You couldn't see to read, Squeak. All the words were blurry. Oh, that's horrible. So did going to the opticians help you? Squeak's got glasses. Oh, wow. Hey, Squeak. Can I see your glasses? Yes. Okay, good. Well, I look forward to seeing these glasses. I wonder what they're going to be like. Oh, super. Squeak, they are such good glasses, aren't they? Oh, they're so nice. And do they help? You can read for hours and hours now. Oh, that's really good. I'm glad about that. Well, I think it's time to find out what's in the box. Don't you? Is it time? Okay, here we go. Ready? I'm going to open the box. Are you ready? You can see properly. Oh, well, in the box, there's a bag. Let's see what's in the bag. So we've done what's in the box. Now it's what's in the bag. Oh. Let's put the lid down. And I can leave it on there. It's a pair of binoculars. Well, do you know what these do? They help you see things that are a long way away. Look, let me show you. Oh, no, you look like you're miles away. Why has everything gone small? You think I might have them the wrong way round? I think you could be right, actually, Bubble. Let's have a look now. Oh, my goodness. God, those two scary monsters. Oh, no, it was you, wasn't it? Tell you what, when you look at you close, you do look very scary. Oh, no, don't do that. Goodness me. Well, that's interesting. Binoculars. That's right, Squeak. They're a bit like your glasses in a way, aren't they? Because just like your glasses help you to see, so these help me to see. I use them sometimes when I'm looking at things out in the garden or when I go out for a walk. That's interesting, isn't it? Things that help you to see. I wonder if that's going to have anything to do with the story we're going to hear today. Yeah, our friend Jason is going to tell us a story in a minute. Shall we listen to that and see if we can work out what the connection is with the binoculars and the glasses? Okay, let's do that.
One day, Jesus went up a mountain. It was quite a high mountain. Lots of wonderful and important things happened on mountains in the Bible, and this was one of them. So I'm going to use some paint in this picture to tell this story. So let's have this red person here as Jesus, and he took 3 of his friends up on the mountain with him, three of the disciples. One of them was Peter. There's Peter. And the other 2 were called James and John, and they were brothers. Well, Jesus took them up this mountain to pray. When they got to the top, Jesus did just that. He started praying. Peter, James and John, they were actually quite sleepy after their walk up the mountain. Maybe you've walked up a mountain or a very steep hill before, and so you'll know how tiring that can be. And they were, well, maybe they were having a little rest as well as trying to pray. And As they were there, suddenly they noticed that Jesus was changing. His face started to shine like the sun, and so did his clothes. His clothes became as bright as lightning, and Peter, James and John, well, they just were totally surprised and amazed at what was happening. In fact, they didn't really know what was happening. They'd never seen Jesus shining like this before. But that wasn't all, because two people appeared next to Jesus. They were two people that had lived many, many years before Jesus was even born. These were who they were. Maybe you can read the letters as they're appearing. One was Moses, and the other one was another very important person that you can read about in the first part of the Bible called the Old Testament, and he was called Elijah. And Moses and Elijah were talking to Jesus about something Jesus was going to do that many people remember at the time called Easter especially. Well, as Jesus' disciples were watching and listening, they were actually really quite frightened. But a cloud then came down and covered them all. Covered Jesus, covered Moses, covered Elijah, and covered Peter, James and John. Now, it wasn't a dark rain cloud. It wasn't kind of like a cold, foggy sort of cloud. It was bright and it was filled with light. And here is Peter and James and John. They're on their faces now. They're so frightened. They just like fell down with their faces to the ground. And Peter thought, I'm going to say something. He didn't really know what to say, but he was so frightened, he just felt he had to say something. And he said, Lord, it's really good that we're all here. It's really good that you're here and that Moses is here and Elijah is here. Why don't you let me build 3 shelters, one for you, one for Moses, one for Elijah? It was a kind thing to think about them, but it wasn't really the time to talk. It was really the time to listen. Suddenly, from within the cloud, they heard a voice. Now, I'm going to put some marks in these boxes, and if you look really carefully, you might be able to see some letters appearing. You've got to think in capital letters, so it might be a little difficult if you're very young. Sometimes it helps if you squint your eyes. That is the letter T. Can you see the word? This, it says. Is. My. Son. That is the voice, the words that the voice spoke from within the cloud that Peter, James and John heard. This is my son. With him I am well pleased. I love him. And well, Peter, James and John, they were still really, really frightened. Oh, it must be God speaking. Well, just then, the voice spoke again. And we're going down here now. Peter realised by now that it wasn't time to be speaking, but time to listen. And that's just what the voice said. This is my son, my chosen one. Listen to him. Peter, James and John, they looked up and realised that the cloud had disappeared completely. And all they saw was Jesus standing there, looking ordinary again. There's Peter and James and John. Come on, let's go back down the mountain. And Jesus led them back down the mountain. Oh, by the way, he said, don't tell anyone what you've just seen, not until the Son of Man has risen from the dead. Son of Man risen from the dead? What does that mean? Well, they were discussing it amongst themselves. You know, Jesus often said things and did things that help people think about things and see things in a new way. And now that they'd seen Jesus in a new way, shining like the sun, Peter, James and John started to realise that they were understanding new things about God and about him, things that would change their lives forever.
Wow, that was a good story, wasn't it, guys? Yeah, the disciples suddenly saw Jesus in a way they'd never seen him before. I think you're right. I think, yes, they saw all the light round him and they saw him with different people, but it made them realise that he was more than just the ordinary person they thought he was. Sometimes when you see something for the first time, you're like, I see! Not just because you see with your eyes, they're very good, yeah, but not even with glasses, but you understand something. We talk about I see, don't we? That's really good, isn't it? You want to go and read the story? Well, you are bookworms, and now you've got your glasses, Squeak, you should be able to read it nice and clearly, shouldn't you? Let me tell you where you can find it in the Bible, because it's in a really good book. There's part of the Bible called Mark. Now, I think that's a great name, don't you? I'm afraid there's not part of the Bible called Squeak or Bubble. I know that's very disappointing, but there is part of the Bible called Mark. And that story that Jason's just told us is in Mark chapter 9. So you can go and read that, guys. Okay. Well, it's been lovely to see you. We'll see you again soon. Bye-bye. Sometimes, you know, we see things that we've not seen before. Not with our binoculars or with our glasses, but we understand things for the first time. And sometimes when you know something, it all makes sense, even though you can't quite get it at first. Let me explain a bit what I mean. Look, here's a picture. I've got a camera in my garden. It's a very special camera because it's one of these that you just stick on a wall or on a tree somewhere. And whenever an animal or a bird comes in, it takes a picture of it. So we get to see all the birds that come into our garden. It even works at night time. So every now and then I go and get the memory card out and look at what pictures it's taken. So here's one. It's quite obvious. Yes, it's dark, but you can see there's a big fox coming into our garden at night time. Now that's what I expected. I expected to see the birds, though I did see some I wasn't expecting to see. But then look at this one. Can you even see what's on there? You might have to go really close. That has become our little friend at home, and we've called him Mousy. It's a good name, isn't it? You see, until I had this camera, we didn't know that there was a little mouse living in our garden. But now every time I go and get the memory card in to check at the photos, we're looking for photos of Mousy because he comes in to eat the food that we put out for the birds. But we don't mind because it's quite nice now and we've got a little mouse in our garden. Now, if we didn't know, you'd look at that picture and you'd think, well, it's a picture of nothing. But once you know, once you see, you think, oh, there he is, and you're looking for him. For those disciples, suddenly they knew something about Jesus that they didn't know before. Maybe sometimes it's even in ordinary things. In our schoolwork, have you ever tried to do a maths problem and you've sat and you've looked at it and you can't get it, and then suddenly, yes, I know what it says now. I know how to do it. It's really good when we have those moments when suddenly we see. Christians believe that sometimes we suddenly see something about ourselves or about God or about people around us when he shows it to us. And one of the most special things that Christians believe is that sometimes God lets us see just how much he cares for every single one of us. That we can be looking at our lives and it just all looks very ordinary, and suddenly we see it and we understand that we're all extremely special because we're loved by God. And for us as Christians, that's such a great moment. Aha! Now I can see. So I'm going to pray now. If you want to join in, please do. Close your eyes and say amen at the end. But if you want just to sit and listen, that's fine. But I'm going to ask God to open our eyes so that we can see the really special things that are all around us that sometimes we miss. And most of all, that he'll open our eyes to see how special you are and I am, precisely because he loves us so much. So let's pray. Dear Lord, thank you for those times when suddenly we see things that we hadn't noticed before. Please open our eyes to see just how special we are and how much you love each and every one of us. And open our eyes too to see how much all the people around us are special and how valuable they are. Amen. Thank you for watching.